It had been years. No one could remember how long exactly, since Earth had launched its last probe into the vast unknown of space. The probe was meant to gather data on distant planets, stars, and cosmic phenomena, but communication with it had been lost long ago. The mission was deemed a failure, and the probe was considered gone forever, drifting into the silent abyss of space. Yet the universe had a way of throwing surprises, and what seemed like a forgotten relic was about to make a return. One cold, dark night, as the stars twinkled from millions of light years away, a signal came through. It wasn't much, a weak, intermittent pulse, but it was enough to stir something in the cold silence of space. The signal originated from an unknown area far beyond Earth's reach, a place that had never been charted, explored, or even properly mapped. It was a region that even the most advanced human technology had barely touched. And yet, this signal was unmistakably from Earth's lost probe. As the message was decoded, a sense of unease settled over the team. They weren't sure if the signal was a glitch, a malfunction from the probe's aging systems, or something more. But the data, however faint, told a different story. It wasn't just a faint signal. It was a distress beacon. The probe was still alive, but its journey had taken it to a part of space that shouldn't exist. To make matters worse, the probe seemed to be drifting aimlessly, its course erratic, as though it had been pulled into something unknown. Captain Jonah Beck stood in front of the massive control panel aboard the Voyager. His eyes narrowed as he studied the faint lines of data running across the screen. The signal had been coming through for days, but no one had been able to make sense of it. Beck had been leading the crew for over a decade, and he knew when something wasn't right. This signal wasn't like anything he had seen before. There was something eerie about it, a sense of dread that washed over him every time the probe's distress signal flickered on the screen. "Sir, we're receiving a new set of coordinates," Lieutenant Emma Bonner called out, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, but there was a hint of confusion in her tone. "They're coming from an uncharted region. It's not on any map." Beck stood still for a moment. His mind raced. What could this mean? The probe had gone missing all those years ago, and now it was sending a message from somewhere deep in space that hadn't been explored yet. He had to know what happened to it. "Plot a course, Lieutenant. We're going to investigate." The crew of the Voyager was not prepared for what awaited them. They were used to exploring the unknown, to charting new frontiers and encountering strange phenomena. But something about this mission felt different, almost ominous. As the crew moved into position, the cold and dark environment outside the ship seemed to grow even more intimidating. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly in every direction, and every sound in the ship's cockpit felt amplified. Every flicker on the monitor seemed sharper. The quiet hum of the ship's engines was the only sound that broke the eerie silence. "We'll be there in a few hours," Beck muttered under his breath, his eyes scanning the display as the ship sped toward the probe's last known location. He could feel the weight of the situation. This was no ordinary mission. Something about the signal felt wrong. They were heading toward a part of space where no one had ventured before, and the idea of finding the probe out there, alone, abandoned, and sending distress signals, made the captain uneasy. As they neared the probe's last location, the sense of isolation and fear only grew. The crew sat in silence, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the cockpit screens. The stars outside seemed more distant now, almost like the void between them and the rest of the universe was growing larger by the second. The ship moved slowly through the vast emptiness, the silence growing thicker, until it almost became unbearable. No one spoke. No one moved. The tension was palpable. Finally, they'd reached the location, but what they found made everything they had expected seem insignificant. Floating in the dark, cold space was not just the probe. It was surrounded by something much larger. It wasn't just any spacecraft. The probe was caught in the gravitational pull of a massive alien ship. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Its sleek, metallic surface shimmering with strange, unfamiliar energy. The ship wasn't just any ordinary alien vessel. It seemed to be waiting, observing, its presence almost alive. Beck's breath caught in his throat as he stared at the alien ship. His first thought was that they were not alone. Earth had always assumed the universe was vast and empty, a place where humanity was just a small, insignificant speck. But now, as they stared at this mysterious, powerful alien craft, Beck realized how wrong that assumption was. The silence in the ship's cockpit was replaced with the harsh, mechanical whirring of the communication system as they tried to make sense of what they were seeing. This isn't possible," Bonner whispered. Is this alien?" The tension in the air was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Everyone in the cockpit exchanged nervous glances. The weight of their discovery began to sink in. The probe they had been tracking wasn't just a lost piece of human technology. It was now part of something far greater, something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. The crew had found the probe, but in doing so, they had stumbled upon an alien force that could change the fate of humanity forever. Beck's voice was steady, but his mind raced. "Prepare for docking. We need to investigate. This could be our only chance to learn what's out there." The rest of the crew quickly set to work, securing the ship and preparing to board the alien vessel. But even as they did, a sense of dread hung over them. The probe had been found, but it had brought with it a mystery far darker than they had anticipated. This was no ordinary mission anymore. It was a race against time, and the unknown that lay ahead threatened to tear apart everything they knew. As the Voyager slowly approached the alien ship, the sense of unease only deepened. What had happened to the probe out here? Why had it sent this message? And most importantly, what lay inside the alien vessel? Whatever answers they found, they would have to face them head-on. The crew of the Voyager wasn't prepared for the truth they were about to uncover. But in the vast, lonely reaches of space, there was no turning back. The game had changed. The universe had just revealed its hand, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. The crew could only hope that they were ready to face the storm that was coming. As the Voyager closed in on the alien ship, the crew's sense of unease grew. The once distant and almost theoretical idea of encountering extraterrestrial life was now very real. There was no turning back. Captain Jonah Beck, along with his team, had come across something that no human had ever dared to dream of, a mystery deep in the heart of space. The lost probe, which had been sent years ago, was now more than just a forgotten piece of technology. It was the key to something far greater, something that could change the fate of humanity forever. The crew managed to carefully pull the damaged probe into the docking bay of the Voyager. The metallic groans of the ship echoed through the cold, hollow air of the docking bay as the crew set to work on retrieving the data. Lieutenant Emma Bonner was the first to connect the probe's core to the ship's data system, and the entire team gathered around, eager to uncover what had happened to the mission so long ago. The tension was thick as everyone stared at the flickering screen, waiting for the data to begin pouring in. The first few moments were quiet, with the crew reviewing standard scientific data, nothing too alarming. But then, a strange pattern emerged. The probe had recorded something that was far beyond human comprehension. There were strange readings, energy signatures, codes, and bizarre electromagnetic fields that couldn't be identified by any known science. But the real shock came when they uncovered a hidden file, encrypted and protected with layers of advanced security. "We've got something," Bonner said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's encrypted, but I can break the code." Beck stepped forward. "Do it. We need to know what this probe found." Bonner's fingers flew over the keyboard, and with each stroke, she broke through one layer of encryption after another. The atmosphere in the room grew heavier as the data continued to load. The crew stood on edge, knowing that whatever they were about to uncover could have dire consequences. Finally, with a final click, the encrypted message appeared on the screen. The room went dead silent as the message appeared in stark, chilling text. "Warning. Silkar invasion imminent. Earth to be destroyed. Prepare for contact. A cold shiver ran down Captain Beck's spine. The room seemed to close in on him. Silkar. He had never heard the name before, but he could tell this wasn't just any ordinary alien species. The probe had somehow found these aliens, and from the looks of the message, they were planning to destroy Earth. The words were clear and haunting, a direct threat to the very existence of humanity. What does this mean? Bonner whispered, her voice trembling. Beck leaned over the screen, his face hardening with determination. It means Earth is in danger. These Silkar are planning an invasion, and we need to figure out how to stop it before it's too late. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had known that humanity's place in the universe was precarious, but never had they imagined that Earth might be targeted by a race so advanced and dangerous. The Silkar were not just some random alien species. They were a super-advanced race capable of wiping out entire civilizations. The message seemed almost too unbelievable, yet there it was in black and white, a grim warning from the lost probe. "We need more information," Beck continued, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "Let's see if we can track the Silkar fleet. If they're planning to invade, they have to have a plan in motion." The team set to work, reviewing the probe's data and looking for any trace of the Silkar fleet. As the data was pieced together, they began to see something even more troubling. There were signs that the Silkar were already near, lurking in the shadows of space, preparing for their strike. The probe had picked up strange readings that indicated an enormous mothership, massive enough to wipe out entire planets, hidden in the depths of space. And what was even more terrifying was that the Silkar had been planning this invasion for years, working in the background, slowly but surely. "Captain, we need to act fast," Bonner said, her voice urgent. "If this mothership is really as big as the data suggests, it could destroy Earth with ease. And if they're already preparing, we may have only days, or hours, to stop them." Beck nodded grimly. The weight of the situation was heavy on his shoulders. The fate of Earth rested in their hands, and every second counted. "Get the crew ready. We'll head to Earth and see if we can warn them. We don't have time to waste." As the Voyager began its course toward Earth, the crew couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. They had no idea how they were going to fight back against an alien race this powerful, but they knew they couldn't let Earth fall without a fight. The unknowns ahead were terrifying, but the only option was to press forward. Every bit of information they could gather from the probe could be crucial in preventing the Silkar from succeeding in their invasion. As the ship sped through the cold void of space, Beck felt the weight of the situation more than ever. He could already hear the whispers of doubt creeping into his mind. Was Earth really prepared to fight back against such an enemy? Could they stop a race that had been planning their destruction for so long? But even with those questions swirling in his mind, one thought kept coming back to him. This was humanity's fight. There was no going back now. The crew was nervous, but they were ready for whatever came next. As the Voyager approached Earth, the sensors began to pick up an ominous sign, an enormous shadow. The alien mothership, now visible through the ship's sensors, loomed large and menacing. The size of the ship was incomprehensible, its dark silhouette blocking out the stars around it. It was a sight that sent chills down the spine of every crew member aboard. "What the hell is that?" Bonner asked, her voice barely a whisper. Beck's jaw tightened as he looked at the screen. "That's our enemy, the Silkar mothership, and it's here." The visual of the mothership was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was enormous, its hull lined with strange, glowing energy patterns. The ship seemed to pulse with an otherworldly power, as if it were alive. The crew could feel its presence even through the sensors, an oppressive, suffocating force that threatened to overwhelm them. They were heading straight for it, but there was no choice. They had to warn Earth. As they moved closer, the reality of the situation began to sink in. This wasn't just a mission to explore. This wasn't just a job. This was the beginning of humanity's greatest battle. The Tsilkar had come, and they had brought their war with them. With Earth's fate hanging in the balance, Beck and his crew knew that they were the last line of defense, and they had no idea what the Tsilkar were truly capable of, until it was too late. As the Voyager continued its course toward Earth, a chilling realization slowly began to settle in on Captain Jonah Beck and his crew. They were on the brink of discovering a truth far more terrifying than they could have imagined. The Tsilkar weren't just planning an invasion. They were already here. But what was even more unsettling was how they had managed to keep their presence hidden for so long. The crew had uncovered something that had completely changed the situation. As they scrolled through the data from the lost probe, they discovered that the Tsilkar had developed a technology far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. Cloaking devices that could make entire fleets invisible to the naked eye. These devices were so advanced that even the Voyager's powerful sensors couldn't detect the alien ships until it was nearly too late. "They've been monitoring us," Bonner said, her voice tight with disbelief as she analyzed the data. "For months, maybe years. We're just a blip on their radar, and now they're planning to strike." Beck stood by the screen, his face hardening. "They've cloaked their fleet, using technology we don't even fully understand yet. They know about Earth, and they've been waiting. Their invasion is imminent, and we're the only ones who know." The crew was stunned. The thought that Earth had been under constant surveillance without anyone noticing was a sobering reality. They were facing an enemy that could strike at any moment, and they had no idea how many ships the Tsilkar had hidden away, waiting to strike. They had to act fast. "We need to warn Earth," Beck said, his voice grim. "But first, we need to figure out how to stop these cloaking devices. We can't fight what we can't see." The ship's crew scrambled to come up with a plan. They knew that time was running out, and if they didn't move quickly, the Tsilkar would have the advantage. The crew worked together, brainstorming ideas, testing different methods to detect the cloaked ships. But the more they searched, the more frustrated they became. The Tsilkar's technology was simply too advanced. Then, just as Beck was about to lose hope, the ship's sensors picked up a strange anomaly. It was subtle at first, just a small flicker in the fabric of space. But Beck's sharp eyes caught it, and he immediately ordered the crew to focus on the anomaly. "Get a lock on it," Beck commanded. "We need to know what we're dealing with." Bonner's fingers flew over the console as she worked to get a better reading. The flicker on the screen grew larger, revealing the outline of a massive ship, barely visible beneath the cloaking device. It was huge, larger than anything the crew had seen before. The silhouette of the alien mothership loomed in front of them, like a ghostly shadow in space. "There it is," Bonner said, her voice barely a whisper. "The Tsilkar mothership." The ship's location was now confirmed, but it wasn't alone. As the Voyager adjusted its sensors to get a better view, more cloaked ships started to appear. Smaller fighter ships, drones, and other advanced alien craft. It was clear that the Tsilkar had a full fleet at their disposal, and they weren't just observing Earth. They were preparing to strike. "We need to move now," Beck said, his voice urgent. "If they detect us, we're done for. We need to get out of here before they know we're onto them." But just as they were about to make their escape, disaster struck. A series of blaring alarms echoed through the ship. The cloaked Tsilkar ships had detected the Voyager and were locking onto their position. Suddenly, the vast emptiness of space erupted in a frenzy of laser fire and flashing lights. "Brace for impact," Beck shouted. The crew scrambled to their stations as the Voyager was jolted by incoming fire. Lasers from the alien ships cut through the vacuum of space, slamming into the hull of the Voyager with deafening impacts. Sparks flew as the chute shields struggled to hold, the force of the blast sending vibrations through the entire vessel. "We're being hit. Shields are holding, but not for long," Bonner yelled. "Increase speed," Beck ordered. "We need to get clear of their targeting systems." The crew worked in unison, trying to outmaneuver the incoming fire. The alien ships were faster than the Voyager, and their weapons were powerful. But the crew of the Voyager wasn't about to give up without a fight. They had the advantage of surprise on their side, and they knew that their only hope was to outsmart the Xilkar with their limited resources. The Voyager swerved sharply to the left, narrowly dodging a laser blast that singed the outer hull. Beck gripped the controls tightly, guiding the ship through a series of evasive maneuvers. But the Xilkar were relentless. They had them surrounded, and with their cloaking technology, they could strike from any direction. "Prepare to engage evasive countermeasures," Beck commanded. Bonner and the rest of the crew launched a barrage of anti-ship drones in an attempt to break through the alien blockade. The small, agile drones weaved through the incoming fire, dodging and countering with their own laser weapons. For a moment, it looked like they might have a chance to break free. But just as they thought they had gained some ground, the Xilkar deployed their own countermeasures. Eye-controlled robots that swarmed around the Voyager, firing lasers and missiles at will. "Robots incoming. We're being overwhelmed," Bonner shouted. The crew fought valiantly, using every trick in the book to stay alive. The action was fast-paced and chaotic. The small, agile drones darted through space, engaging in close-range dogfights with the alien robots. Sparks flew as lasers crisscrossed in the void of space, lighting up the dark expanse like a fireworks display gone wrong. The Voyager's crew was outnumbered, but they weren't outmatched. Every move, every decision they made, had to be calculated carefully. They knew that the Xilkar were powerful, but they also knew that they had something the aliens didn't: human ingenuity and determination. "Get to the weapons system," Beck ordered. "We need to take down those drones." Bonner and her team rushed to the weapons bay, quickly firing on the attacking robots with everything they had. The fight was brutal, but each shot they landed brought them one step closer to victory. The underdog theme played out in every moment. The crew of the Voyager knew they were fighting an enemy that was technologically superior. The Xilkar had the upper hand in almost every way, but the humans fought with every ounce of their strength. They used their intelligence, their resourcefulness, and their determination to push back against an unstoppable force. They weren't just defending Earth. They were proving that even against impossible odds, humanity would fight to survive. As the Voyager continued to battle, the crew could see that the fight wasn't over yet. There was still more to come. The Xilkar were relentless, but the crew was far from ready to give up. In the chaos of battle, one thing was certain: the real fight had only just begun. The fate of Earth now rested in the hands of a handful of determined humans against an army of alien invaders, and no one knew how it would end. The crew of the Voyager had just barely survived the first wave of the Xilkar's attack, but they now faced a new and even more daunting challenge. The Xilkar flagship, the Titan, was on a direct course toward Earth, and there was nothing that the Voyager or any other Earth ship could do to stop it. The alien vessel was too powerful, its shields too advanced, and its firepower too overwhelming. To stand any chance of saving Earth, the crew of the Voyager would have to think beyond traditional combat. They needed to infiltrate the enemy ship itself. The decision was not made lightly. Captain Jonah Beck and his crew knew that getting inside the Titan was a nearly impossible task. The alien ship was heavily guarded, cloaked in advanced stealth technology, and its interior was filled with high-tech defenses designed to neutralize any intruders. But the crew had no other choice. The Xilkar were on the verge of destroying everything they loved, and they had no time to waste. "We're running out of options," Beck said as he stood before his crew, his face grim. "The Titan is too big for us to destroy from the outside. Our only chance is to get inside and disable its systems from within. We can't waste any more time." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The mission was dangerous, and they knew that the odds of success were slim, but there was no other way. Earth's fate rested on their shoulders. Bonner, a highly skilled engineer and combat specialist, spoke up. We can use our stealth technology to get close to the Titan without being detected. Once inside, we'll need to disable their communication systems. If we can cut off their ability to coordinate with the rest of their fleet, we can slow them down long enough for Earth to mount a defense. The plan was set. Using a combination of the Voyager's cutting-edge stealth technology and AI-enhanced gadgets, the crew would infiltrate the Xilkar flagship. The team would split into small groups to avoid detection, each tasked with sabotaging a specific part of the enemy ship's systems. Bonner would lead the team that would target the communication systems, while Beck would stay on the Voyager to coordinate their efforts from a safe distance. The team suited up in specialized gear that would make them nearly invisible to the Xilkar's sensors. They had a limited window of time before the enemy ship realized they were aboard, and they would have to move quickly. The tension on the Voyager was palpable. Everyone knew the risks they were taking, but the fate of the Earth rested on this one mission. "We've only got one shot at this," Beck reminded his team. "If we fail, Earth is done for. Stay focused and stay alive." With that, the team boarded the stealth shuttle and made their way toward the Titan. The vast alien ship loomed ahead, its surface smooth and metallic, like a giant shadow in space. The crew's hearts raced as they neared their target. They knew that the moment they entered the Xilkar ship, the real danger would begin. As they approached, the Titan's cloaking device flickered, revealing the size of the ship for the first time. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Voyager. The shuttle was small and quick, designed for stealth, but even then, the crew felt like they were flying into the mouth of a beast. Every instinct screamed at them to turn back, but they pushed on. Inside the shuttle, the crew was silent, each member concentrating on the task ahead. Bonner, the mission leader, ran through the details in her mind. They had to disable the communication systems, cut off the Xilkar's ability to send orders to their fleet, and escape without being detected. There was no room for error. They reached the docking bay of the Titan, and the shuttle landed with a soft thud. The doors slid open, and the team stepped out into the cold, sterile corridors of the alien ship. Everything around them was unnervingly silent. The ship was designed for efficiency, and there were no signs of life. At least, not yet. But the team knew that the moment they moved, the Xilkar would detect them. Bonner took point, her rifle ready, her eyes scanning every corner. The others followed closely behind, moving in perfect synchronization. They moved like shadows, using their advanced stealth suits to remain unseen. The corridors of the Titan were like a labyrinth, and the team had to be careful not to get lost or separated. Their mission was to disable the communication systems, and they couldn't afford to waste any time. As they advanced deeper into the ship, they encountered their first obstacle: Xilkar drones. These robotic sentinels were designed to patrol the halls and respond to any threats. Bonner signaled for the team to stop and crouch against the wall, holding her breath. The drones passed by, their glowing eyes scanning the corridor. The team waited, frozen, until they were out of sight. "This is too easy," whispered one of the crew members, his voice full of nervous energy. "Stay focused," Bonner replied, her voice low. "We haven't even made it to the communication center yet." They moved quickly, making their way toward their objective. But as they rounded a corner, they encountered another surprise. Xilkar soldiers, heavily armed and ready for battle. The team was outnumbered, and there was no way to avoid a confrontation. "Engage," Bonner shouted, and the team opened fire. The sound of gunfire echoed through the metallic halls, sharp and deadly. The Xilkar soldiers responded with deadly precision, their own weapons charging up. The crew had the element of surprise on their side, but they knew they didn't have long before reinforcements arrived. The fight was intense, with lasers and bullets flying in every direction. The crew fought bravely, using their training and the element of surprise to their advantage. As the battle raged on, Bonner saw one of her crew members fall, a shot tearing through his chest. She didn't have time to mourn him. There was no room for hesitation. The mission had to continue. "Keep moving," she ordered, pushing forward with the remaining team members. They reached the communication center, but just as they were about to breach the door, they encountered their most dangerous obstacle yet. Silcar drones reinforced with powerful artificial intelligence. These drones were unlike any the crew had encountered before. They moved with a deadly precision, adapting to every move the crew made. Bonner didn't hesitate. She rushed forward, using her combat skills to take down the drones one by one. But in the chaos, she found herself cornered by a group of drones, with no way out. "I'm not going to make it," Bonner whispered, almost to herself. With a look of determination, she turned to one of her teammates. "Go, disable the comms. I'll hold them off." Her team hesitated, but Bonner's sacrifice was clear. With one last look, they rushed into the communication center and began to disable the systems. Bonner, meanwhile, fought off the drones with everything she had. Her weapon ran dry, but she continued to fight, knowing that her sacrifice was the only way for Earth to survive. The last thing she saw before everything went black was the flashing lights of the communication system powering down. The mission was a success. The crew emerged from the Titan with heavy hearts, knowing that their victory came at a terrible price. Bonner had given her life to save humanity, and the others vowed that her sacrifice would not be in vain. The battle had only just begun, and the war to save Earth was far from over. As the Titan approached Earth's orbit, the stakes had never been higher. The giant alien ship, with its advanced technology and overwhelming power, loomed like a dark cloud over the planet. The crew of the Voyager, having just completed their mission of infiltrating the Titan, now stood together with Earth's defense forces, ready to face the ultimate battle. They had fought through incredible odds, sacrificed their lives, and risked everything to get to this point. Now, humanity's survival depended on their success in the final confrontation. Captain Jonah Beck stood on the bridge of the Voyager, his eyes fixed on the approaching alien ship. The tension in the room was almost suffocating as the crew prepared for the most important mission of their lives. Earth's defense forces, a mix of military ships, fighters, and advanced drones, were already in position, waiting for the order to engage. Beck knew that the time had come. "Everyone ready?" Beck asked, his voice steady but filled with determination. His crew members, their faces set in grim resolve, nodded silently. The war had escalated to this moment. Earth was fighting for its life, not just with weapons, but with its intelligence, its heart, and its unwavering will to survive. That Silcar had underestimated humanity, believing that their advanced AI and technology made them invincible. But the humans had something that Silcar lacked: creativity, resilience, and the will to fight for their home. The massive alien ship, the Titan, finally entered Earth's orbit, its ominous presence casting a shadow over the planet. It was like a moving fortress, its sleek, metallic surface gleaming under the harsh light of distant stars. The Voyager and the defense forces had no time to waste. They would have to face the Silcar head-on, knowing that this battle would determine whether Earth survived or fell into the hands of a ruthless, technologically superior alien race. Beck's voice broke the silence as he gave the order: "Engage the enemy. Full speed ahead." The fleet moved into formation, the human ships and fighters charging toward the Titan, weapons primed and ready. The first volley of fire erupted from Earth's ships as they unleashed a barrage of missiles and laser beams at the Silcar flagship. The explosions lit up the blackness of space, sending shockwaves through the surrounding area. But the Titan was not an easy target. Its shields absorbed most of the fire, and it retaliated with devastating power. Lasers shot from its massive guns, cutting through space like lightning, striking Earth's ships with brutal precision. The battle raged on, with explosions shaking the space around them. The defense forces were giving everything they had, but the Titan's shields were holding strong. The human ships, despite their advanced technology, were outclassed in terms of raw firepower. They fought with determination, But the Xelkar were relentless, their AI-driven weapons firing with deadly accuracy. Inside the Voyager, the crew was hard at work. They knew that the only way to turn the tide in their favor was to disable the Titan's AI systems. The Xelkar had relied heavily on their artificial intelligence to control their fleet, and without it, they would be vulnerable. Beck's crew had one chance to hack into the enemy's systems and disrupt their operations. "We're in," said Lieutenant Ramos, the ship's chief hacker, his fingers flying over the console. "I'm accessing their AI network. This is it. If we can break through, we can disable their systems." Beck nodded. "Do whatever you have to do. We're counting on you." Ramos worked furiously, his screen flashing with lines of alien code. The tension was unbearable. Each second felt like an eternity. The battle outside the Voyager continued to rage, but the crew knew that the fate of Earth hung in the balance. If they could disable the Titan's AI, they might stand a chance of winning. If they failed, humanity would be at the mercy of the Xelkar's superior technology. "Almost there," Ramos muttered, sweat trickling down his face as he worked. The strain was evident on his face, but he kept his focus, knowing that his actions could save the planet. With a final keystroke, the console beeped and the screen went dark. Ramos let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "We've done it," he shouted. "The AI is down. The Titan is vulnerable." Captain Beck didn't hesitate. "Now's our chance. All ships, target the Titan's weak spots. Hit them hard." With the Xelkar's AI disabled, the Voyager and the remaining human ships unleashed everything they had. Missiles and laser beams tore through the blackness, striking the flagship's now unprotected hull. The Xelkar were scrambling to regain control, but it was too late. Earth's ships hit the Titan with all their might, the weapons fire lighting up the vast expanse of space in a spectacular display of fury and defiance. Explosions rocked the Titan's exterior, and the ship's once imposing shields began to flicker and fail. But the battle was far from over. The Xelkar, now operating without their AI, were desperate. Their forces turned chaotic, trying to fight back using manual control, but the damage was already done. Inside the Titan, chaos ensued. Xelkar soldiers fought to regain control of their ship, but without the guidance of their advanced AI, they were at a severe disadvantage. The human ships, even with their limited resources, now had the upper hand. The last-minute strike by Earth's forces was proving to be a game-changer. Beck watched from the bridge of the Voyager, his heart pounding as his crew and the defense forces pushed forward, refusing to back down. The humans were determined, fighting not just for victory, but for the survival of their planet. As missiles exploded on the Titan's surface, Beck couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. This was the moment they had been waiting for. With one final push, the Titan began to crack. Its hull, once impervious to attack, started to break apart under the relentless assault. The Xelkar flagship, the symbol of their power and dominance, was beginning to fall. And then, with a deafening explosion that shook space itself, the Titan's core exploded. The once mighty alien ship was reduced to rubble, its destruction echoing through the void. Earth had won. The Xelkar invasion had been stopped, and humanity had proven that even against the most advanced AI and alien technology, they could fight back and emerge victorious. As the Voyager and Earth's remaining ships regrouped, the crew took a moment to breathe. They had won the battle, but the cost had been high. Many lives had been lost, including their beloved comrade Lieutenant Bonner, who had sacrificed everything to make this victory possible. But in the end, humanity had triumphed over its enemies, and Earth was safe once more. The crew of the Voyager stood together, looking out at the shattered remains of the Titan as the remnants of the Xelkar fleet retreated into the darkness of space. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had proven that it was not to be underestimated. Earth would survive, and so would humanity, no matter the odds. The battle for Earth had been won, but the victory came at a heavy cost. The Xilkar flagship, the Titan, had been destroyed, and with it, the looming threat that had cast a shadow over the planet. The Xilkar invasion was no more, but not without significant losses. The human crew of the Voyager stood on the brink of a new era, but their hearts were heavy with grief. Among the fallen was one of their most beloved crewmates, Lieutenant Bonner. Bonner's sacrifice had been the turning point of the battle. He had given his life to disable the enemy's communication system, making it possible for the rest of the crew to disable the Xilkar's AI and turn the tide in their favor. His death was a powerful reminder of the high price of war, but it was also a symbol of the human spirit, willing to fight, sacrifice, and endure for the greater good. For his crewmates, his loss was felt deeply, and his memory would forever be etched in their hearts. As the Voyager returned to Earth's atmosphere, the crew watched in silence. Earth was safe. The threat was gone. But the emptiness that Bonner's absence left behind was undeniable. Captain Beck stood by the observation window, gazing out at the blue planet below. It was hard to believe that just hours before, the Earth had been on the brink of destruction. Now, it was time to honor the fallen, especially Bonner, whose bravery had helped save millions of lives. The crew of the Voyager gathered in the ship's mess hall for a private ceremony to remember their fallen comrade. The mood was somber, and there were no words that could ease the pain of their loss. But they knew that Bonner had died for a cause greater than himself, to protect Earth and the future of humanity. They would carry his memory with them as they continued their journey. Bonner was more than just a soldier, said Lieutenant Ramos, his voice thick with emotion. He was a friend, a brother. His sacrifice will never be forgotten, and because of him, Earth still has a future. Captain Beck nodded, his own eyes heavy with the weight of their loss. He was one of the best, he said quietly, but his death wasn't in vain. We won this battle because of his courage, and that's something we can never forget. We honor him by continuing to fight for Earth's future, just as he would have wanted. The ceremony was brief, but it was a moment for the crew to come together and remember the fallen. It was a bittersweet moment, as they mourned their loss, but also celebrated their hard-fought victory. Earth was safe, but the world had changed. The crew of the Voyager had faced the greatest challenge humanity had ever known and emerged victorious. But the future was uncertain. There were still many unknowns, and the universe was vast. The Xilkar may have been defeated, but there could be other threats lurking in the darkness of space. As the ceremony ended, the crew returned to their stations, each of them processing the events of the day in their own way. The sky outside the ship was alive with celebrations, fireworks lighting up the atmosphere as Earth's inhabitants celebrated the hard-won peace. But inside the Voyager, the mood was far more serious. The crew knew that the victory they had achieved was just one chapter in a much larger story. The universe was full of dangers, and Earth's survival depended on their ability to face whatever came next. Captain Beck stood before the crew, his voice steady as he addressed them. "We've done the impossible," he said. "We've saved Earth, and we've shown that humanity can stand up to the most powerful forces in the galaxy. But our fight is far from over. There are still threats out there, and we have to be ready for whatever comes next." The crew nodded, understanding the gravity of his words. The battle against the Xilkar had been a defining moment, but it was only the beginning of humanity's journey through the stars. The universe was vast, and humanity was only beginning to understand its place within it. As the Voyager made its way back to Earth's orbit, Captain Beck received a new mission, a message from the Earth Defense Council. The message was clear. Humanity's role in the galaxy was far from finished. There were more threats to confront, more unknowns to explore, and more adventures to undertake. Captain Beck, the voice on the other end of the transmission, said, "Earth needs you. The galaxy needs you. We've barely scratched the surface of what lies out there. Are you ready for the next mission?" Beck looked out the window, his gaze steady and unflinching. "We're ready," he said. "Let's go." As he gave the order to prepare for departure, the Voyager began to ascend once more, leaving Earth behind. The crew, though weary from their recent battle, stood united. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. But they knew that their journey was far from over. In the final moments, as the Voyager broke free from Earth's atmosphere, the ship's engines hummed softly, and the stars beyond beckoned them forward. The crew members exchanged looks of determination and resolve. They had come so far, and they were ready for whatever lay ahead. There was no turning back now. The ship's sensors scanned the vast expanse of space as they entered uncharted territory. The unknown stretched out before them, and the Voyager sailed into the darkness, its lights shining brightly in the blackness of space. Earth was safe, but their mission was just beginning. The crew knew that new challenges awaited them, and they would face them together as one united team. The final shot of the Voyager leaving Earth's orbit was a powerful visual, a symbol of hope, of determination, and of the human spirit. The journey ahead was uncertain, but humanity had proven that it was strong, resilient, and capable of overcoming any obstacle. And as the Voyager sailed into the stars, the crew knew one thing for sure. No matter what the future held, they were ready to face it. The screen faded to black, and the credits began to roll. But the story was far from over.